Hello, this is MK and MK. Welcome to our channel. If you like our content, please subscribe and hit like underneath this video. This is mango session number 3. We're once again sitting on top of a mango branch on,
Yeah.
on our family lot here in Bohol, Philippines. And today we wanted to take the time to discuss the topic of running businesses and finding employees and employment overall here in the Philippines, at least our experience as far as that goes.
Yeah.
So one of the main goals for us coming here was, even though we did bring some of our own businesses, we're trying to get some online income. In addition to that, you also want to cultivate local businesses and bring in local income as well. And one of our goals was coming here was to help the local community by opening businesses, providing well-paid jobs, and helping out that way, bringing in labor force or labor opportunities here in the Philippines, and then maybe later we expand to educational opportunities. So ever since we got here, we've been struggling with finding consistent workers. We didn't realize about that. One of the things that I like about Filipino culture is that they're very laid back. The hurricane hits, they're smiling, they're shoveling the sand out of their house, the mud out of their house, cutting the fallen down trees, etc., having fun, repairing what's left over after the disaster. It's a great attitude to have. The problem, though, that attitude can be a double-edged sword when it comes to finding the right employees, because Filipinos culturally, at least locally here, as far as our experiences so far, are very content with what they have.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing on a personal level, but not so good thing when you're trying to run a business. So
give
go
them
ahead.
an example.
Yeah. So for instance, an example on
Finding workers.
yeah. So one of the things that we were looking for is a helper to help out with our kids, to babysit the kids when we need to, so we can address things like starting businesses and managing the construction over here on a lot. So we really needed a helper. So right now I think we went through 5 or 6 people.
Who said they were gonna come and then back out?
Oh my God. We got 3 people waiting to come for an interview, and then they either back out or just don't show up. and we try to do everything. We give much less work hours than anybody else in the area. We pay much more than anybody else in the area. We try to accommodate our workers as much as we can, asking them when they want to take off, because people in here, believe it or not, are actually used to working 7 days a week, like 16 hours a day. It's tantamount to slavery, really. So one of my personal goals, was when starting businesses here to show to other business owners that you have to respect your workers. You got to be fair with your workers. You got to give them proper hours. You got to give them proper wages, and you got to give them proper life-work balance. But sometimes you get resistance to those sort of efforts, which sounds crazy, but at one point we had hired 2 helpers to help out with our daughter Leilani, who's it's a lot mentally and physically to take care of her. She's very hyperactive. She's she's much heavier. Her body is ahead of her mind, so she's acting like a toddler who wants to be carried all the time, but she's 4 years old and twice the size and weight of a toddler. So it's physically and mentally exhausting. So we had 2 helpers hired at one time, and I thought, well, let's help them out. Let's make them a work hours where it's a rotating shift, right? So one will start early in the morning and end early in the afternoon, and the other one will start late in the morning and end late in the evening. They didn't like that. They wanted to just do the same time, and then if we need, usually we tell them 6 o'clock, that's it, no more work. But if we have a guest come in and we need them to help out, watch our kids while we're attending to the guests, checking them in, then they're willing to do that. So then we try to say like, okay, well, maybe do rotation. Let's say you do 3 hours taking care of Leilani, and then the other one will clean around the property, and then you rotate, etc., etc. And they're kind of like, well, we just like to do. They basically want to do things on their own, the way that they want to do things. And so all our efforts trying to kind of like bring in fair and equitable responsibilities are out the window. Even though we had two workers, we had shared responsibilities. One of them
Yeah.
quit because she said it was too hard. And Michelle can talk a little bit about this, but some of the issues is that culturally some Filipinos are shy and unwilling to give feedback, especially if they're having issues with something.
Yeah. And I think it's a generational thing. Back then, you know, people have no other choice but do this type of stuff, farming, working for somebody else. But the newer generation, are getting educated. There's actually hiring for a lot of workers abroad.
Yeah,
You don't have to be necessarily highly educated and professional, but a lot of countries are actually hiring even farmers.
mm.
So a lot of qualified talents are actually out of the country right now, and they're working everywhere, all over the world. And plumbers, for
Yeah,
example, another challenge. This type of stuff are highly skilled workers, and there's barely anybody in the island
yeah,
right now,
yeah.
or if there are, they're working in another
Yeah,
island, and this work usually lasts for months.
yeah.
So then they would rather do that rather than wait for another job to come up.
Hmm. I think you bring up a good point, and that's true. I think the ones not just highly qualified skill, any really just skill is hard to find around here. But I think it hasn't maybe not so much skill as motivation to do the job. You bring up a good point. I think a lot of people, especially from outside, such as the United States, are used to seeing hardworking Filipinos. And that was my expectation coming here. I'm like, oh, Filipinos are great. I'm going to come in. I'm going to have all these workers who work so hard, and it's going to be fantastic. Easy to start businesses, and etc., etc. But not the case. Those who work hard and who want to work already working, either they go to the major city on the island, or they go to other islands or other countries like United Arab, Saudi Arabia, or UAB, or
Dubai.
yeah, or United States, Canada, etc. Any of these other places.
Yeah.
So that's why when you look at the Filipino workforce outside of Philippines, you see that they're hardworking individuals. But when you come to the Philippines, to a rural place such as this, I'm not talking major city like Manila. I'm sure there's a lot of workforce in there. It's tough to find people who have trade skills and who are willing and wanting to do the job, even if you pay above the market rates.
And you have to think about it too. We were challenged by the pandemic, where a
Mm,
lot of the schooling had to be done at home. So then mothers, especially, they had to stay home and be with their kids because the kids are home now.
yeah,
So then you barely see any mothers working right now. A lot of our workers are either don't have family, or their kids are all grown and
yep.
they're fathers. So I think that's one of the challenges that we're encountering right now.
Yeah, I think that comes with modernization of Philippines as the industry or infrastructure modernizes. So is the family dynamics, and a lot of that, like you said, in the U.S. the same struggles. If you're at home working, you have to take care of the kids. If you bring it to, first of all, there's no child care in here, such as like daycare centers in the US. But there is a lot of affordable options, some free options such as family living nearby and
Yeah,
helping with the kids.
yeah, and I think that this is not unique to the Philippines.
Mm,
There's employment crisis around everywhere. I mean, even in California, there's really nobody wants to work at the farm, and
yeah.
um, without this immigrants from usually from Latin countries, then there's no workers at the farm.
Mm,
So it's not unique to
yeah.
the Philippines.
Yeah, it's a struggle, I think, everywhere. But and so just like everywhere in Philippines as well, after 2 years of being quarantined at your house and having no choice but not to work, I think a lot of people in here. So maybe that's what happened. Felt comfortable in a sedentary life, and in here, especially because you don't have mortgages. They live in simple houses. They don't have mortgages to worry about, and if they don't pay taxes, well, the government doesn't really do anything about it. So, so there's that choice in here. It's much easier to make that choice in here,
Mhm.
not to work, than maybe in other places such as U.S. I think.
Mhm.
So that could be
Yes.
part of the problem as well.
And Philippines has these programs with the SWD, Department of Social Welfare, where they received they call it 4 Ps or pantawid, which give them some monetary every month they get money for
What is it
um,
called? Panty what?
pantawid.
Panty with. Okay.
Well, they think that poverty and malnutrition are related, so they started this program to make sure that the kids and the children are healthy and they go to school. So
Mm.
then it fights back poverty. So I think that was the main reason for that, and then it kind of backfired because then nobody really wants
Yeah.
to work now because I have a check coming up this month.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I think that a lot of that same struggle was when we were living in Texas, and we experienced that as well. But let's not get into politics. I think we're running low on time. I don't want to squeeze everybody for their attention. That's just a little chit chat about our struggles of finding consistent employees here in the Philippines. Something to keep in mind if you're deciding to come here and start a life or start a business.
Don't forget to subscribe and like our channel, and we would bring more contents, interesting contents for everybody to think about. Bye.
Bye.